Hey everybody, and welcome to Let's Look at Blood of the Werewolf. First things first, I want to apologize in case there's any kind of technical issues. This game did not play very nicely with Fraps, so I am recording this in XSplit right now. So if there's issues, I apologize. Hopefully I can iron those out in editing, but I expect everything will be okay. Blood of the Werewolf is it came out on Steam during that kind of like Halloween-y period where Alone in the Dark came out and Deadly Premonition came out, etc., etc., but it's different from those games. And, you know, the Slender mods and versions that came out during that period as well, because this is an action platformer. This is not a puzzle platformer. It is not a Braid or a Limbo or a Vessel or something like that. This is an action platformer. Perhaps you can think of it, you know, if you go way back into the historical records, something like a Castlevania, like a 2D Castlevania game from SNES or NES era. Or, perhaps most similarly, something like Volgar the Viking, which is a very positive comparison. We're going to play through a couple of levels here, one of which will be a boss fight and one of which will be just a standard level. And this is the kind of game that, it looks to me, you know, there's like maybe 15 levels in the single-player mode of the game, each one being about 15 minutes on a sight read. So you're looking at maybe a 4-hour campaign here. But this is a game where speedrunning is definitely kind of the focus here, I think, or repeated playthroughs where you actually like learn the levels and do very well for yourself. Not dying and getting through the levels as fast as possible does appear to be incentivized. The first thing that I want to say here is actually going to be probably the strongest negative that I have against this game. I think this game is actually surprisingly good overall, and I say surprising because of, you know, not to, you know, bring my own personal biases into this, but because of, you know, that negative that I was going to say to start off with, which is I think this game looks and sounds real, oh, get out of here. I think it looks and sounds real generic. Like, when I first saw promo material for this game, I was like, sure, you know, I like platformers. It's probably my favorite genre of games, apart from zombie typing simulators, which Steam has seen one of lately. And I can play a platformer even if it's not particularly, you know, even if it doesn't have a lot of character necessarily associated with it. But when I looked at this, I thought immediately, and perhaps this is not cool to admit, but I thought, you know, this looks like Party of Sin. Party of Sin being a puzzle platformer that came out last year that looked very, very similar to this, and that I thought was actually pretty bad. Oh my god, please, you can make it up here. I know you can do it, Selena. You know what? Never mind. We're gonna just jump out of this area this way instead. I'll talk about the actual gameplay quickly, but suffice it to say, the graphics and sound in this are the worst part of the game, for sure. Apart from that, if you can set that aside, this is actually a totally competent and surprisingly playable, kind of speedrunny focused platformer that I actually think is an awful lot better than it looks like it has any right to be, at least when you first get started out here. And I apologize because that does sound like it's a little offensive, or like I brought a staggering amount of personal bias into it. Okay, so gameplay. I've already, you know, done a little bit of the opening here. Kind of one of the hooks of the game, you're playing as Selena. She's like a werewolf mommy, right? So, a wilf, if you will. And she is basically, the werewolf people are being persecuted because, you know, that's how it goes sometimes, I guess. And she has to protect her family, including her young son. Their father has been killed in the persecutions here. I guess we're being persecuted by like weird fish monsters and H.P. Lovecraft eldritch horrors and stuff, and also scientists, as you will see. I mean, those motherfuckers be lying and getting me pissed, so I can understand why they've got a problem with werewolves, even though I might not. So when we enter the moonlight, we transform. I guess we just go right here. When we enter the moonlight, we transform into this, you know, werewolf form, and in the werewolf form, we're substantially more powerful. Instead of a crossbow, we have kind of this claw attack, as you can see. We also have a dash attack that we can do there, and we can get more powers as well. And we have a double jump, and basically we're just enormous as well. So the gameplay, or like the collectible aspect of the game, is a little weird. You're not seeing too much of it because I've already collected most of it, but the #1 power-up that you come across in this game are actually like weird little sigils, or like power crests, if you will. And if you pick up enough of them, those are actually for blood meter there. So that's just my special meter that I can use for abilities like that dash that you saw earlier. And as you pick up, like, you know, maybe 15 or 20 of those, or 100 of those, then you get a little bit of a boost to your maximum HP. So you see, like, that Star Wars Rebel Alliance symbol up there. Picking up enough of those will actually give you, like, an HP upgrade overall. So it's not like you're picking up coins or anything like that. You're picking up things that have a meaningful kind of attribute effect on you, or a meaningful effect on your attributes is maybe a less awkward way to phrase that. So, although it takes a little getting used to, because you're like, I'm not used to getting like heart containers this often. Like if we've made this in like a Mega Man context or something like that, you're not used to you know, getting those heart upgrades very often. I forgot that this would not come back. And we do definitely have like some Ninja Gaiden stuff going on here, where these birds are the fucking most, or bats are the most annoying enemy of all fucking time. Anyway, as Selena, not werewolf version of Selena, but regular version of Selena, not Jennifer Lopez version of Selena either. We have this crossbow, which is relatively effective. Usually takes a few shots to kill an enemy. We can also get various kinds, I think anyway, I've only gotten one kind so far, but various kinds of crossbow ammunition that uses up that orange meter that you can see there. So if I use right bumper, I am using the controller here, that uses my special ammunition. In this case, that is a double shot, which I don't think is particularly effective, but I guess we can pick up the bullets sometimes after it's over. And, you know, most of the time, the form of the gameplay takes, or the gameplay itself takes the form of attacking adversarial enemies, like these banshees, for example, and then picking up power-ups and improving yourself. Oh, is this a secret area I've never seen before? It might be, because normally I get the sigils with some regularity. But sometimes there's also obstacles that we have to deal with, like basically big metallic crushers that'll come out from the side of the wall and make our life a little bit more difficult. There's a little bit extra ammunition for us as well. Those like pieces of Wolfsbane there are actually HP, by the way. And I only know it's Wolfsbane because the game told me it was Wolfsbane a little earlier. Okay, so let's get our sigil here. I don't think I'll be able to get that one, but that's okay. I think if I pause it, you can see how many I need in order to... Or maybe that might be how many I have over the course of the entire level. We'll cut our way through here, and I think that there is a puzzle associated with this. And we will actually get into some more involved combat with the wolf here, but to be honest with you, the combat system in the game is not 100% satisfying. It feels a little bit half-baked. Okay, here's the thing with the wolf. If you, like, don't attack for a while, you get a focus attack, like that, which looks very, very strong. But you can also just hold down the right trigger, and you just kind of, like, I'm not even having any impact on the game right now. I mean, there's no enemies around, obviously. But this is just my way of saying, like, if you just hold down the right trigger, you can just do, like, a very casual-looking swipe, which is unusual to me, at the very least. I think it's a weird game. This game is a mixed bag overall, but I feel relatively positive on it. I think because I was going into it and, you know, even started playing it, and was like, I don't think this is going to be very good at all. I think this is going to be like Party of Sin, a game that I did not like at all. Whereas in this, since it's so much more focused on being, you know, kind of classically structured and difficult, it's not a Metroidvania, despite how it may look right now. Because it's more focused on that aspect, I think it does a lot better. Like, this is not reinventing the wheel. This is kind of just like Volgar the Viking, and I mean that in a very positive way. I think Volgar the Viking is a game that I underrated when I covered it. I think Volgar the Viking is a much better game than this, and that's not necessarily a criticism towards this game. I think, you know, this game's good enough in its own right to kind of stand on its own as well, and I think it will pick up a community among, at least a small community of like streamers and speedrunners and whatnot that might want to play through it, kind of like Volgar did, actually. That being said, this is also only $8 for its opening week sale on Steam, $10 overall, so it's also not a game that's going to be $20, and I think that's a pricing success, as opposed to maybe being overpriced, like a lot of games are criticized of these days. I thought maybe that was the end of this level. Okay, I'm going to die here, almost certainly. This is where we get into kind of the obstacle stuff. And, oh, yeah, I've been crushed. And we're going to probably start dying repeatedly now, over and over and over. But I'd like to stress, that, again, that this is not a game where just getting to the end is the goal. This is a game where leaderboards are actually, you know, they play a major role. It's a score... Oh, no, I have to do it all. Oh, Jesus. It's a score-attacky type platforming game, which you don't see a whole lot of these days. Again, Volgar was also kind of in the same boat, but it was also more about getting to the end. This game is more challenging than it looks. Because I've done this level before, and because this is a relatively easy level, you're not really getting a... Oh, yeah, I'm dead. You're not really getting a feel for how difficult it can be. But there have been sections of this game where I've died, you know, 15, 20 times in quick succession. This is a very scary moment for me. Okay, we made it. That was a little scary. And honestly, this stuff feels so much better than the actual, like, platformy action segments with the combat. I guess this is a platformy action segment, but this feels so much better than the actual combat when you're, like, shooting the crossbow at enemies. And, you know, I spend a lot of that time being like, I don't really enjoy this. Like, it's not as satisfying combat as, like, a Castlevania or a Rogue Legacy or something like that. But these sections right here, these obstacles are pretty cool, and it's fun to kind of deal with it. Another game you could kind of compare this somewhat superficially to is a Mega Man game. You know, it is not in the same caliber or class as a Mega Man game, but from a gameplay standpoint, kind of feels fairly similar. And what I'm trying to get at... Oh, that was horrible. This is almost like a PSA for don't judge this book entirely by its cover. I don't necessarily think this is a must-buy for a lot of people. But I do think that despite the fact that it looks relatively generic, and I hope like I'm not just repeatedly insulting the artists and animators over and over, if so, I apologize. I'm just telling it like I see it right now. In any case, don't necessarily judge it by that. I think if you end up picking up this game, you'll have a lot more fun than you might initially think. This is like a VVV style obstacle here, which is very, very difficult to deal with. You gotta anticipate the curves and then kind of fall downwards at the right speed, and if you end up touching any of the platforms, you're probably gonna die. Or if you just end up rushing off the edge like that, you're probably gonna die. This is a part of the game that is substantially harder than it looks. I promise you that. I almost made it. If I'd gotten past that curve, we would have been fine. Oh, no, we've been crushed again. And, you know, the game does... It's hard to hold this against it as a negative, but there are points in the game where, you know, you die a lot and it's frustrating. It's very nice that it loads so quickly. I really thought I was going to make it that time. It's very nice that it loads so quickly, so you actually don't suffer for the most part, and, you know, if you suffer, it's not going to be for very long. That was terrible. But by the same token, there are parts of the game where I'm just like, this again. This was a pretty good start here. Okay, there we go. We actually managed to make it to the bottom. Believe it or not, that's much better than I actually did when I played through the game before. So that's around the representative time for a level. I got a C there, which is terrible. And again, a game that is very much leaderboard focused. I'm 13th on the leaderboards, apparently. Whoever did this without getting killed, you have my utmost support. As you can see, you know, people in here, 38 deaths, 23 deaths. I'm just seeing if there's anybody I know in here. Relatively, you know, punishing. I died, I don't know, probably like 7 or 8 times there, but that's the second time I played through the level. So this is not an easy game by any stretch of the imagination, even though, well, 15 deaths, never mind. Even though it looked fairly easy for probably like the opening segments there. But this is a game that's meant to be replayed kind of over and over and over. The levels are meant to be replayed over and over and over so you can improve your position and standing, not just a game that is meant to be beaten. So let's check out our boss fight. This is a boss fight against the creature. I would not necessarily consider this, again, the best boss fight I've ever played. There's basically nothing in this game that I would consider among the best platformers I've ever played, but I dig the kind of, like, you know, Monster of the Week aesthetic that we've got going on here. And it's cool. Like, it actually is a lot better than initially anticipated. So we're gonna have a few standard kind of like retro game bosses. We're gonna have a couple of different enemies and attacks to deal with here. He's gonna shoot either directly in front of him, or he's gonna shoot in an arc on top of him. And I had a hell of a time with this boss, actually, the first time that I did this. But I think with the benefit of having defeated it before, it might be substantially easier for me this time. So not only does he have this kind of like vertical attack, or sorry, horizontal attack that you can see, he also has this arc, and that's where things get really difficult, because you gotta kind of anticipate where these shots are going to come from. I actually did get hit there, which is disappointing. And that does damage over time, and it also has a slow. There are some seriously hellish parts a little bit later into the game, at least where I am right now, which is like not late into the game by any stretch, but is later than we are right now. This impairs like incurs a movement penalty as well, which is really annoying to deal with. But where like you get enemies like this that, you know, have an attack that slows you and impairs your movement, and then you also get enemies that like chase you down, so you're slow and you're trying to escape, and it can be a goddamn nightmare trying to get away from those guys. So I'm using, you know, I haven't talked very much at all about the special power system of the game. That's because I barely use it. I mostly just use kind of like the raw attacks that you, oh my god, okay. Don't get spoiled here. Like, stay in your pattern and it should be fine. But I am using my special dash attack to take out whenever the enemies spawn on the right side of the screen. That also gives me consumables in the form of more blood, or also, well, that was more blood, but also more HP sometimes. So we're about to win this boss fight, but this did take me 15 to 20 minutes the first time I did it. So again, appearances can be deceiving to a certain extent. So, we'll see how I ranked up on that level. Maybe? Can I see what my level is for the beast? The docks? The factory. Okay, so there is no actual leaderboards for the beast, which is disappointing, because I thought, is that guy's name Boner Jams 2K3 flat? I wonder if there's like a character limit and there's more to that. I wanted to see the joke. I don't know if there's much more to really go on here. I mean, I can again show you level select, and you can see how many levels are in the game. Each one maybe 15 to 20 minutes on your first time through. The laboratory was a real pain in the ass. So that's level 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 levels. Let's say, you know, 4 in an hour. So that's nearly 4 hours, yeah. But again, it's not a game that I think is just meant to be played through once. This is a game that is meant to be speed run, and you know, you do get substantially faster on your trips through the rest of the game. So you know, if you start speedrunning this game, maybe you can start beating it in like an hour or something like that, and maybe they'll find a glitch that'll make it even more feasible to beat it in 30 seconds or something like that. I have no idea. I'm not totally familiar with the speedrunning community, but don't think of this as a game like, what's an example of like a long 2D platform? Don't think of this as like a Rayman Origins, where you're gonna like bump through it and you're gonna be having like a lot of fun for 15 or 20 hours. This is a game, it's more bite-sized. Again, it's kind of like Volgar the Viking. It's a shorter game, and it's meant to be played fast and repeatedly, so you learn the patterns. Almost like a 2D Dark Souls or something like that, but not really. I hate when people use Dark Souls as kind of like a catch-all now for like, oh, it's kind of difficult. But it is based around, to a certain extent, pattern memorization, although in this, compared to Volgar, it is a lot less Dark Souls-y because you don't die in one hit. You have a fairly robust health meter. That being said, you know, I think this compares fairly favorably to a game like Volgar the Viking. I think Volgar the Viking is a notch above this for sure, but Blood of the Werewolf surprised me by having gameplay that was well in excess, in a positive way, of kind of its generic aesthetic. So I don't necessarily think this is a must-buy by any stretch of the imagination, but for $8, if you're into this kind of like score-attacky, speed-running type platformer game, and you're willing to forgive some faults with the generic look and aesthetic and combat, and you're not too worried about having an engaging story, then you might be able to get your money's worth here. Certainly, you know, $8 or $10 for a 4-hour game, even if you only play through it once, is a pretty good value. But in any case, I've rambled long enough. In the video description below, you'll find a store page, or a Steam store page, I should say, for Blood of the Werewolf, where you can pick it up, again, on sale for $8 for its opening week sale, or for its Halloween sale anyway. And then it will be going up to $10 after that. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to click the like button if you made it this far. I assume you liked the video. That's an easy way that you can support me. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more daily first impressions. As always, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you next time.